Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing great. So today's session is focused on performance-based assessment. So when we are talking about performance-based assessment, there are so many points that come into our mind. Number one, what is performance-based assessment? Characteristics, components, limitations, advantages, and everything. So the first point that we are dealing with is what is performance-based assessment? The definition of the performance-based assessment varies greatly based on several factors such as the author writing about it or the intended audience. However, it assesses students' skills that cannot be measured by objective tasks. Various authors have defined it in various terms. Macmillan, for example, talks about the demonstration of a skill, of a particular skill. Fernan talks about it as an assessment that is going away from the pencil test. And Lynn talks about it in terms of process as well as product. Now, performance-based assessment can be divided in two types. Number one is process-oriented and number two is product-oriented. Process-oriented performance-based assessment is concerned with the actual performance of the student in the class to be observed by the teacher. Now, two of the best examples of the process-oriented performance-based assessment are the presentation and the role play. Now, the assessment has to be done during the performance of the task. That is when the student is actually doing the task, whether it is a presentation or a role play. The teacher has to assess the student during that task and on the basis of the skills that the teacher has taught in the class. Another type of performance-based assessment is product-oriented performance-based assessment. Now, this assessment focuses on the final product. So it must be kept in mind that reaching the final product involves the employment of the higher order thinking skills. This means the students are engaged in creating a final product that exhibits their understanding of what they have learned in the class. It includes the art exhibitions, poetry or story writing competitions or essays. So the assessment is done on the basis of the final product. Performance-based assessment can also be classified as restricted response performance-based assessment or extended response performance-based assessment. So, in restricted response performance assessment, the question may start with a closed-end question, but it would require a detailed justification or an explanation of the answer. For example, for a question like, is Wordsworth a poet of nature? You may answer yes or no, but you will be required to give justification and explanation of your answer. So, writing a short report on a field trip may be an example of restricted response performance assessment because you will have to cover the field trip, but you may talk about your own observations and your own experiences. So, in extended response performance assessment, the students are free to choose the source of their data and to choose the way they want to collect their data. In this assessment, process is as important as much as the product. One of the examples of this can be the research work. Now, after having a general overview of the performance-based assessment, one of the most important points that I think is what does it measure? So, Sean, in his work on performance tasks, emphasizes on 3 points related to performance-based assessment. Number 1, it measures students' ability. Number 2, it applies the skills and knowledge learned in the class. And number 3, it involves higher order thinking skills. So this means that the performance-based assessment actually promotes creativity in language learning. It can also be used to assess the students in all 4 macro skills, which are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. One of the important points that most of the assessments overlook is keeping the balance between the knowledge and the skills learned into the class and the ability to apply that knowledge and skills in the real world. However, performance-based assessment tasks actually focus on keeping this balance between the knowledge and skills and the application of that knowledge and skills. So, this balance is at the heart of the PBA tasks. Now we are going to focus on the types of performance-based assessment. In this presentation, I'm going to focus on 5 types of PBA tasks that can be useful in language learning classrooms. Number 1 is presentations. Now, presentations are one of the best ways to enhance students' skills about providing information, reporting progress, and persuading others. Number 2 is portfolios. Now, portfolios are one of the best ways to enhance students' decision-making powers because the students decide about their best works that can be included in their portfolios. It can also focus on the writing skills of the students. It also enhances the students' reflective skills as they reflect upon their portfolios and upon their written works that can be included in the portfolios. Other types of PBA tasks include performances. Now in performances, a group of students can be given a part from a novel or a play or any situation on which they'll have to act. But here, the teacher will have to communicate the points on which the students will be assessed. Now, the teacher may assess them on their dialogue delivery, on their facial expressions, on their gestures. But these points must be communicated before the performance. The second one is the projects. Now here, a group of students may be given a particular project by a teacher, or they may be given the freedom to choose their own project related to the language learning classroom. So from this situation, it can be said that the performance-based assessment also gives autonomy to the students. One of the most important types of PBA tasks is debates. Now, debates are really important in enhancing various skills among students, like respecting others' viewpoints and opinions. And skills associated with debates include research, arguments, reading comprehension, evidence evaluation, public speaking, and civic skills. After talking about the types of performance-based assessment, we are going to talk about the characteristics of a performance-based assessment. The characteristics of PBA tasks include being complex, open-ended, time-bound, authentic, process or product-oriented, formative in nature. Teachers act as facilitators. Students become an active part of the assessment process. Now, there are a few things that clash with each other. Because of being complex, the PBA task requires a lot of time, but because of being time-bound, these two characteristics actually clash with each other. One of the most important point here is the teachers being facilitators. Although it requires a lot of time for the teachers to design a PBA task, but it is really helpful for the students because it gives the role of a facilitator to the teacher, and students become an active participant in the assessment process and their critical skills are enhanced. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about 3 most important components of a performance-based assessment. Number 1 is rubrics. Rubrics are one of the most important components of a PBA task. As I have discussed before, that it is a must to provide the rubrics to the students before they start planning their performance. So they'll know it in advance what they are going to assess on. They'll know the criteria of the assessment. Number 2 is observation. The teacher needs to observe the performance very carefully in order to give a just assessment and in order to give a thorough feedback. Now, talking about the thorough feedback, it brings me to the feedback's importance. It is really important for the feedback to be there in a performance-based assessment, as it would give a chance to the students to grow depending and working on the feedback. So this is the end of my presentation, and I hope all of us have learned something about PBA tasks today. Now, according to me, PBA tasks are really very interesting for the students because of the 2 reasons. Number 1, because it brings the real world into the classroom, and number 2, because it actually helps the students and it lets them use their own skills in the classroom. That makes it practical. So we'll see how each one of us can tailor the PBA task according to our own context and needs. So here I'm going to present a list of the references that I have used in the presentation. So thank you very much and have a nice session and day. Goodbye.